Okay, I start. So right now there is the MVP Summit in Redmond. So there are lots of MVPs there, some of them from the old Shred community. That's why Bertrand is not joining, I assume, today, and Antoine also is not here because he's at the MVP Summit, or maybe he will join during the meeting. I had him on Skype just before. So let's do that first. I created the Eventbrite page for Harvest. Now it's official, you can get your tickets. I think we already have 2 people who got their ticket, Rob King and Sipke, just because they knew about the link before you, as they helped to organize the event. You must know these guys, they usually are at the meeting here. They are not today. Maybe they didn't think about the time difference, I don't know. If someone wants to ping them on Skype, maybe. So this will be in New York, okay, in Midtown, okay, which is just south of, is it south or north of Manhattan? What is Manhattan? Manhattan is here, so this is north of Manhattan. This is very central to New York. You see, this is the, well, Manhattan is there. So I'm confused there. Lower Manhattan. This is Manhattan, the full island is Manhattan. So this is Midtown, the middle of Manhattan. Central Park is here. So this is very close to the location we had found before, which was a Hilton hotel around there. Now it's there. So apparently it's a very good location. The ones who know New York said it was very good. There is no recommendation for hotels yet. I know Rob has found something which we'll share with everyone. We'll provide a list of preferred hotels. I'm not sure we'll get rebates on the hotels, but even though the rebates we had on the previous hotel was like the public price on internet, so there won't be any much difference. Prices for hotels are around $200 per night. I think the one Rob's found was cheaper, but there are lots of solutions there. Date will be, as last week we said, Tuesday 21st of February, and Wednesday, because the Monday is a holiday and it will give you more time if you want to visit New York. And that's about it. The website is not yet updated, so Orchard Harvest, there is the website from last year. We still need to update it with the new locations and accommodation and everything. Okay, so it's not yet updated. We'll do it soon. But at least you can already get your ticket, book your flights, and the site will be updated later. You got the location address here. Yep. So the price here is valid until December 31st. After it will be $150. Still cheap, but this is an early price. Questions? Thanks, Luis. Okay. That's it about Harvest. That's it. Yeah, the location, the last, as usual, big meeting room. There will be snacks in the morning, 2 hours, I think, break for lunch, so you can eat outside and have time to eat outside and enjoy New York. It will be from 1 to 5 p.m., from 9 to 5 p.m. 2 days, and that's about it. T-shirt and party on the Tuesday night. Still has to be defined, but hello, George. But there will be, like, as usual. Next, status. Since, okay, I just fetched, and apparently the only change, which is weird, I must have made a mistake because we did some pull requests. Or maybe the pull requests Okay, maybe. Yeah, they were pulled, but they don't appear as, okay, like the one from Hermes was pulled on Thursday. Let me check then. Diff. Okay, this we talked about last week, refactoring widgets to have more commands, updating module, we talked about it last week, and this one was merged, I think, last week. Is this the extensibility? Yes, no, we talked about it already, so that's weird. I was sure we had merged some pull request on Thursday, at least one. Maybe not, that's weird. This one, or maybe we did this one at least. So this one was from Jean-Thierry, fixing some tokens for initial values. Event bus on null exception, so there was a bug. This is the admin theme, we talk about it definitely. Adding the ability to select whether a template will be rendered on the front-end admin or both. Interesting. One from the fix here. Close this one and close this. So what is it about? Title part driver. Was removed. Okay, I have no idea what it's doing. Oh, I think it's because there was an issue. Okay, maybe there is a bug. Yeah, fixes 5579. There was an issue that the templates, the dynamic templates that you can build from the admin would overwrite admin and front-end templates, and that might be the issue. So now you can decide where it will, what it will target. So the resolver will look at the current theme, I assume, and the option. You see, okay, to harvest it or not. Okay, that makes sense. We just have to check if it's a break-in.
Something, finish that off. Once it's in good shape and deployed, maybe we can have dinner outside the door.
Yes, you can, Sipke. Please do so. So yeah, that okay. I will check if there are any break-in change because it's on 110x, and if it's just ready to template, that should be okay. There are definitely some break-in changes here, but not. Maybe it will be okay. I assume that should not be an issue. Okay. Okay, that should be good. And import export. Okay. That's it on Orchard 1. Orchard 2. Orchard 2. I need to fetch. What happened? So this is Orchard 2, this is Nick's branch. He's working on refactoring all extensions and features. Did I miss an equation? No, we need a camera. Yeah, I could have used a camera. What room are you? Oh, I didn't see that, sorry. Let me see. So this is Nick's branch. This is my branch. I will show you later. What else? There's some stuff going on. So we merged the tenants module in master. We also merged the modules module in master. and that's it. So last week I've been working on the search module, search and indexing module. I created an issue. Okay, Bertrand and Antoine are here, so we can switch in French now. So I created an issue. Where is that? Issue. This one. So wait 1 second, guys. So I open a design issue just to explain the goals of the search and index modules. Main idea will be, because it's not done, to simplify the module and to remove some abstractions. Because in the search module, in the listen module, well, in the search module, there was, for instance, an abstraction in the search builder that would let you create some search queries. The issue with this interface is that it's just a wrapper around Lucene, and any other search implementation has to work like Lucene, exactly like Lucene. So, for instance, doing something with Azure Search doesn't work because it doesn't work the same way. So the abstraction is kind of useless. So what I try to do is not to hide anything, just to expose Lucene, and Lucene does whatever it can do, and we can also use it directly. And the only abstraction that exists for the search are right now on the indexing, and the indexing module does much less than before. I will explain what it does. I also pointed to some issues from O1 that we tried to fix, like user needs to exclude elements in layouts from being indexed. Yet, so how to handle indexing and layouts. The abstraction on the iSearch builder, which is also limiting the usage of Lucene, because in abstraction we can't access all the things that we can do with Lucene. So that's two issues with this abstraction. Lucene search indexes content of enumeration fields separated, while just an issue with indexing, that's fine. Search Lucene modules that network, yeah, and fixing the fact that we can't today define custom tokenizers, analyzers in Lucene to analyze text differently from the language. So these are things that have to be solved, if possible. Well, or at least are doable with the new infrastructure. Security. So today, when you show search results, you show everything, even the things that maybe the user cannot see. So something to take into account. And extensibility, I talked about it already. So Zoltan was talking about the security issue and maybe make it also with projections. And in the end, I think that we can't solve it in the search, well, globally. I think each module should solve it independently because they will rely on different storage, and we need to be able to query the content with security in mind. So what I was suggesting actually is to have helpers to query content and filter the content with pages and check if the content item can be displayed and then render it, and or if not enough data, just ask for the next page. And this thing will work with search and with projection. So it will each module to use these helper methods to be able to filter content securely. And this could also be an option to show or not the secure item. This is also something that will work also in the virtual one and fix these issues. I will show you what I did. I'm going to type. How do I search for things now? Remote desktop, where is the remote desktop? Where is the search? Okay, try again. Typing, nothing appears. What is the command line for remote desktop? M something. Thank you. Okay, can still see my screen. Yes. So right now I have 2 modules and 1 library. The library is indexing abstractions. If you want to use the indexing services, you just require to link to this abstractions library. A module to provide all the implementations of these abstractions, or to that identity, and you will see it's very limited in what it can do. No. Indexing, which is still limited, and Lucene, which contains everything that we used to do with Lucene today. Okay. Doesn't work, but I will show you what it does. So this is the sample app. If I go to the dashboard now, there is a new site, Lucene indexes. So this is just an item for Lucene. If you are using Lucene, which will be the default and most usage, you can create indexes and delete them. So I can create a new index like foo bar. Okay. Right now, an index is just a static file. It's not using Lucene.NET at all because there is no package for Lucene.NET Core on myget or NuGet. But once we have it, we can plug the actual Lucene. So far, it's just a fake index, but it's still there. There is still a file to support that. Let me show you. Option 2. Or maybe this folder is a link. Yes, you see, foo bar, the 2 indexes I created. Foo already has some content. It's just the content item ID. Status is like the XML document we have today, so I didn't change that. It's the last item for each index that was processed in the task ID, in the task records, because how it works is like in Orchard 1, the indexing module here has an indexing task manager, which lets you create an indexing task or get the list of all indexing tasks. And this is what will be reused across modules, and not just for search modules, maybe also for projections, or anything that needs to index content from content items. So this guy lets you create task and get the list of tasks, and a task is just an indexing task, like in Orchard 1, is just saying you need to index this content item ID. This task was created on this date, and this is an update or a delete. Okay? And what you can do is say, give me, from another module, you can say, give me all the tasks that are greater than this task ID, because all the task IDs are created incrementally with their IDs. Okay? Like in Orchard. This one is a content handler that will create a task when a content item is published or removed, either an update task or a delete task. So it's managing all the tasks for the lifetime of all content items. This one is responsible for looking for parts and fields in a content item. So there is an iContentItem index handler. That is an event that lets you build an index document for a current content item, and anyone can implement that on any content item. Either it has parts, fields, custom metadata, it's up to you. Just say, I want to be part of providing data for a content item. By implementing that, that's what you do. And this is in the abstractions library. And one default implementation is one which will browse the parts and the fields of a content item, and based on its settings, will gather the data from fields and parts. And to provide this data, you will just have to implement content field index handler and content item index handler. Okay, these are specifics for the for this class. build index. So this one will be called for each field and the other one for each part. Up to you to provide that or not, for each field or part, type of field or type of parts. And the Lucene module will provide a UI to manage indexes. Will communicate with the indexing task state to, let me show you. So there's a background task, like in Orchard 1, that will process all the indexing tasks, which are stored for each content item. And then for each index, it will either delete the document or update the documents if the index is not up to date. Okay, that's it. So in the end, if I look in the database, right now, these are the tasks to manage content items. This is an old content item that I deleted. This one is just to say this content item has been updated. And so this is the indexing task manager which creates them. And if I go there, I can see that foo, and you see bar just appeared, are now up to date with the item 9, which is this item 9, because there is a background task that runs and every minute will say update the index if there is something to do. So 9, 9, 9, everything is up to date. So now if I try to update the content item, this one, I'm just publishing it again. It will create a task. It will delete the previous task and create the new ones. And you see this is SQL. And here I update. This task is number 10 now. The previous one has been updated. We don't need the previous update. It's a new update, number 10, with the current date. And anytime now, the background task should kick in. If I have maybe I don't have a breakpoint. So anytime, this file should be updated to 10. It should be automatic. I should have a breakpoint somewhere that will show this. So less than 1 minute. If it doesn't work, we can wait for half an hour. The breakpoint maybe to be easier. You see 10, okay? So before I put the breakpoint, the index was updated. And bar should have some content, which is, it's just appending the latest thing which was indexed. When there will be the actual Lucene, it will delete the document and create the new one, okay? So
so did you try the MyGet feed they gave us?
They gave us something?
Yes.
When? I didn't see anything.
Okay.
Because last time,
check my email.
well, the last time, so just for context, there are 1 or 2 developers at Microsoft that are working with Lucene.NET team to port it to .NET Core, and they have something ready as a pull request. But
okay, so go to myget.org/gallery.
nope, this one is from
Itamar,
who pushes on his own MyGet the default master branch of Lucene.NET, not the .NET Core branch, which has not been merged yet, unless I didn't see that in the mail. Because the Lucene.NET branch is still a PR, and the MyGet feed from Itamar is for the master branch, so not the .NET Core one. That's why I was suggesting to use TeamCity, because TeamCity will create a MyGet feed for each branch.
4.8 beta.
Yes, but not .NET Core. They have 2 things. They have the master, which is not .NET Core,
okay,
and the branch. So it's not, they don't have it on the MyGet feed. But there is a version of Lucene that works. I just can't reference a DLL right now because it's not on MyGet feed. The other solution would be for me to create a fake NuGet package, but that will just add noise on the gallery, and then you can't delete it. So I will just wait for them to provide a MyGet feed. Questions? Did I miss anything in the chat? And I have the same issue as usual, which is I can't minimize this window. Okay, good. Okay, so this is the current state of the search. So next step, so right now all the infrastructure works. So the idea, why I do it this way? The idea is that now indexing is just providing an indexing task manager. So modules can track which content items have to be indexed or the content extracted. So it's just to extract content, and it's just giving a document index information. And then it's up to each search engine to know how to store the document and to keep up to date with all the tasks that have to be processed. So in this case, for the Lucene, the state will be stored on the file system because a Lucene index is on the file system. For projections, we could use that also for projections. So in this case, projection will also use indexing task manager. We'll store its state on a database and store all the data from all the fields and all the parts and the types where it wants and how it wants. It doesn't have to comply with a document-based system. And what it also has right now is that if you go to content type definitions and you go to field or a part, actually. So if I go to this part, like body, breakpoint, it was just to check it was working. So this is the body part settings. This is the render tokens that we saw 2 weeks ago. And now there is the include this element index in the index. That's bad, but fix it. And when you check that, there is a bootstrap bug, but the issue is file to be fixed. When you check this thing, you can decide if this part content should be stored, analyzed, sanitized, tokenized, okay, and tokenized so that you can even decide how to render the content for this part specifically in the index, and same thing for fields. So if I go to the article fields, this is the exact set, the same set of properties. So we can decide at the field level if we want to index and how to index it. So now it's these parameters are exposed in the UI so that you can define if it has to be analyzed or not, if it has to be stored or not, because previously it was not the case. You could not define it. Like for specific fields, you could not store them unless you could create a custom container. And it's up to the client of the indexing task to decide what to do with these properties. Maybe it doesn't make sense to analyze some integers, so it won't work. But at least you can define the metadata in the settings. I might move it only in the Lucene search engine. I will see as I use it on the projection module to see if it makes sense or not. So that's it for search engine questions. No questions, just a quick note now on the roadmap. So as I build the modules, I update the roadmap. So you can see now this is the current phase, alpha. I moved tenants and modules in free or partially implemented. There's still some work to do, but it actually is at the MVP level, so it works. I'm currently working indexing search. Something I did based on feedback is I put some dates, even if they are completely wrong. I did put some dates. We won't be able to follow this schedule, but at least people see something and can complain that we are late or early or whatever. So the dates I put for the next phases are to finish the alpha schedule, which contains localization and a default theme. I put December 2016 because we are still on track for this date. There are like 2 modules to build still. And localization is an ongoing effort because it will be localization for so PO file support and also content item localization. But as we will create more modules, they will also have to support localization and indexing and so on. Then for the beta phase, I set April, which makes 4 to 5 more 4 more months to add all these modules: layout, widget, taxonomies, media library, and projections. This can be easy to do. This can be also hard to do. It depends on what we want to put in. But there are critical modules to be able to build websites. And then I put an RC for August. So again, 4 more months to build the rest of the modules. Okay. If no one is helping for these modules, then I'm not sure these dates will be reachable. Okay, but at least we have an idea of dates, and I can move them around if we are late on one phase for the other ones. Okay, questions? Next topic. So I already talked about Harvest. For those who are not here, I pasted the link to the Eventbrite page where you can get your ticket already. Let me say I put it in the meeting notes because I will need them later. Eventbrite, I should. Well, I have it there. Okay, so it's in the chat. And I will just bookmark it here. So next topic, localization. So you see on the roadmap, one of the next things to do for this phase is localization. So we had the design meeting on Friday with some of you, namely Hermes, Matteo, Sergio, and Sotiris. You are not there?
No, the beginning, but actually.
Okay. So during this meeting, where is the issue? Let me see, find the issue. I put the meeting notes in the GitHub issue that we created for that, which is, can you paste it, Matteo or MS? I don't know, I'm sure MS is here. Or should I find it? Let me see, updated. Here, okay, this discussion. Sharing the link. Okay, so it was, I think, 2 hours meeting talking about localization for Orchard 1, and everything that we said will apply to Orchard 2. I will go over the meeting notes just to explain you what has been decided and how we expect to fix issues. I know that Hermes and Matteo commented on that later, but looking at the last comment, apparently it's still valid. They still agree with what we said. So the meeting notes, this is how it's organized. This is just the scenario that we worked with, like homepage, same thing in Spanish, same thing in Italian, and a product. So it was a page, and this is a product in Spanish and in Italian. Okay, this is what we used. So the issues we tried to solve were field localization doesn't work. How to make fields culture neutral. Okay, and the solution that we agreed on was to have to synchronize data across translation set. We also agreed that we would use translation set. A translation set being a set of content items that share the same logical content item, but are represented in different languages. Okay, and a translation set will have a translation set ID, which will be the first content item ID that was created for this translation set. So if you create content in Italian first, it will have an ID. And if then you decide to translate it in a default language, in English, for instance, the English content item will have a master content item ID with the ID of the Italian content item. Okay, so now the master content item ID property, which is referred as a translation set ID, will be the content item ID of the first item created in this translation set. Okay, it's a logical identifier, which is the content item ID that was first created. Okay, So whenever a field is marked as culture neutral, okay, and a content item is published, then the data will be cloned for this field on all the other content items that are published, all the draft, if any, and draft of the translation set. Okay, so question, can we change? Okay, and the question here was could we change the value of a neutral field from any language? So the question and the answer is yes, and it will be duplicated only to the on the publish event. Okay. So if you have a draft with a neutral field value 1 and another draft with on another language with a field value 2, then if you publish the first one, it will synchronize 1 to all the other items, and if you publish the second one, it will synchronize 2. Okay, so you can edit drafts independently. It's just on publication that the synchronization will be done. If we roll back a localized item, we need to synchronize its fields also. Okay, makes sense, because a new version is published, an old one with a new version. Field setting to mark it as culture neutral or non-localizable, string to be defined. Content handler to detect the fields on publication, rollback. Yep. So there will be a content handler that detects that the field, content handler that will detect that the field has content has been published, get the field value, and synchronize everywhere. Okay, that's how we will fix the localization for fields. We can delete any translation independently. Okay, there is no master content item that can be deleted. Any language for a content item can be deleted independently. The rest of the translation set will still be alive. Okay. Unpublished master content item. Yeah, just a note. You can also unpublish a master content item. How to select a content neutral content item from any culture, not specific, for instance, in the translation IP. So this was a question from Sergio. Let's say you have a content item selector field, and you don't care about which language is selected. You just want one of the content item from the translation set, because it will be on, like, you have a content item which is not translatable, but you want to reference another content item which is translatable, so it will have translations. But you don't care about which one you take, because you will display your current one, which is not translatable, based on the current language. So the idea is that just pick one, whatever language you take, and on display, it's about you, it's your responsibility to find what is the content item from this translation slate that you want to render. Okay, so everyone was happy with that. Other topic, the content item picker field shows a drop-down with all languages. Yes. So I think this is something that Hermes and Matteo are working on right now. We need to extend the content item picker to be able to just filter content items per culture, like we do in the content item list. So when you select something, you can filter the languages you want. And on the field itself, on the content item picker field, there will be an option, okay, setting, so that you can enforce that the content item you picked is of the same language as the container of the field. And it's optional. Okay, you can enforce that on validation that you have selected the correct language. So this means that if you select this option, you make it true. If you're in an Italian content item and you select using the content item picker field another one, when you try to publish the value, it will enforce that both languages are the same. So if you pick an English one, it will tell you, no, you have to select an Italian one. Okay, that's an option on the field that you can set now. And sub-options of this option will be to automatically find the correct language of the selected item you took. Like if you selected the English one and there is an Italian one, and you want it to be the same as the language of the current content item, which is Italian, then even if you selected the English one, it will try to find the Italian one. Okay, this is a sub-option to translate automatically. This way, when we clone content items, and this field needs to have the same language, we will be able to find the corresponding translation of this content item. Okay? Nobody talks today. I'm the only one. That's good. Should we localize menus? So we talked about menus also, we talked about cloning, we talked about widgets. What we haven't talked about yet is taxonomy. We'll create another meeting just for taxonomies because it will be also a long discussion. But for menus, we also found a good compromise to be able to localize in any ways. So the idea is to do nothing, almost nothing. So for menus, we can have different menus for each language, in text and in structure. Okay, this is a statement, because every language might have different menus. Okay, and even in structure, not just in text. Today, we can create different menus and use widget layers to render it for each language. So today, if you want to create for two languages, two different menus, and to display them independently, you would have to create two widgets, two layers, and render the first widget on the culture layer for the language, and the second widget for the other menu on the other layer and other culture. Okay, so that works, but that's hard to maintain. So what we mentioned as a solution for that is to be able to add a localization part on the menu. Okay, and also add a culture selector in the menu editor. Okay, so when you add the localization part to the menu, then the menu editor will have a drop-down to let you switch from one menu to its corresponding menu in the other language. Okay, just like today for content items, just to link menus together, but not menu items, just menus. So when you create a menu called menu French, and then you can say, oh, go to the Italian one, and you will be able to create a menu Italian for that. Okay, they are part of the same translation set.
What about the widget?
Oh, sorry. When I say add the localization part, it's not to menu; it's to the widget.
To the widget.
So you will. So yeah,
but
sorry.
You would want only one widget for all the cultures. You'd want the widget to do the switching.
Yes.
Not having to have more.
Yes. Because today widgets are localizable and the filter already handles that. So what you will do is you create one widget and no, you create two widgets. Okay. Each widget will point to the correct menu, but their language, the widget language, will be set to Italian and French. So you don't have to create a layer, because the widgets will filter the ones that will be displayed.
Right, but why would you need more than one widget? Couldn't you have one menu widget, and the menu widget is localization aware, and it does the right thing and picks the right menu content item depending on the culture? That would be a lot easier to maintain.
No, we talked about it, and there were issues. Let me try to find if anyone can comment on that, because there was also recent. Yes, sorry, because my notes were wrong. I read it wrong. So menu does not have localization for. Yes, menu does not have localization for. It's not localizable.
Why not?
That's it, because it means that we need to handle that in the menu editor to support that, and then by doing that, we don't have to do anything on the menu, and it's still easy. So well, the idea was that.
Yeah, but the menu is so important.
Yes,
it's such an important.
But you only have usually as many menus as you have languages. You don't have like that many menus, so it's very easy to find them by name. And this is what people do, and they say it's fine today. When they did menu English, menu French, menu Italian.
So what about the menu widget being localization aware and being able to point to more than one menu content item then?
So I'm confused. Did we decide to add localization part to menu? And then we will still...
Menu widget.
Menu widget already has that, and this is how we will be able to... Just to menu, just to.
So I don't know. Maybe it's not localization part. Maybe it's a different part that has the responsibility of that has a dictionary of culture to menu. Basically.
We didn't want to make something else than localization part. What you say is confusing.
Okay, so I understand that it's confusing, but okay, so it seems like there is a more general problem, which is localization of collections. It probably applies to taxonomies as well.
That's why we don't want. Yeah.
So how about we solve both problems?
Yeah, but we talked about taxonomies, and we know we'll have to find a solution for taxonomies because it's the most complex one. Whatever we find with taxonomy will work with everything. But we don't have the same issues with all the collections and all hierarchies. Some don't need this complexity. Menus, for instance, they don't need the complexity.
There needs to be a setting on whatever the solution is that enables the administrator to choose what level.
It can't be generic. So we don't want to implement this complexity in everything because we don't need to do this in everything. We'll find which ones have to be that complex. Taxonomy might be one.
Yeah, it seems like menu is best.
Currently, the current culture is applied to what's in the widget.
Yeah, but we don't want to do that anymore. So I'm just reading what Therese is saying. In order to, I'm confused now. We'll have to ask Hermes and Matteo what we decided for the menu itself, because I'm almost sure that the idea was to let the widget filter by itself, and this way we don't need a culture layer.
Okay, may I speak?
Yes.
Okay, what we decided is that if we have different menus, then the widget takes the control. But if we want to serve the same menu across languages, then we should add localization in menu items, not in the menu itself.
Okay.
But both choices are valid, right? Some users will want to localize the menu items, and some users will want to localize the whole menu and have different items in there. So the question would be the answer.
Are you sure that we said that? Didn't you leave before we said that?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that we ended up with this.
So maybe my notes are right. Be able to add the localization part to menu.
I think that the only need that we need to serve is that in case we have the exact same menu across languages. So the solution was to have localization part in menu items, but and the widget will take
I'm almost sure we talked about it and we say we don't care because it's not easier to navigate from one menu item to the other one in a specific language. It might be even easier to just open the other menu in the other language and just browse to the menu item we want to change and edit it. And if you want to have the same menu, then you just synchronize them. You just create the items in all of them. Because if you want to have the same menu item everywhere, you will still have to enter the text in every language. So you will still have to do something and create them and click on them and so on. So that's why we said, we don't care about this scenario. It's adding a lot of complexity for not much value. I don't say there is no value. I'm saying the complexity and the work to do is not worth the value that we will add. But my note actually might be right. We still want menus and not menu items to be localized and to be able to switch from one menu to the other language of the same menu. Okay, to switch and to see the structure. Oh, they are different. Let me add this menu item in the Italian one. Okay, go to the English one. Let me add the menu items to the English one, and so on. This is a way to keep the menu in sync, an easy way to navigate through them. And still they can be different if we want. And then they will have a culture, and the widget should be able to take that into account and render it. That's what we said, without creating layers. See, add localization part on widget, not in menu items, but menus, yes, this is what we wrote. Okay, so we'll comment on that as a side discussion on the issue. We talked about also cloning. We'll use cloning to create a new localization. This is why we made some changes in the dev branch to do that. Okay. And what we want to do is to add a property in the clone content item context, the clone content context, so that when we clone, we know in which language we want to clone, and if a part or anything wants to clone differently because it's a translation, it can do it. For instance, finding the correct language in the clone translation. So if you have a field that has to, or a part or anything, or a reference that needs to be translated, you know which language you want to clone in, so you can say, okay, let me find the item for you in the target language, if there is any. Okay, so this is an example with menus, localization part on the menu, so this makes sense, that's what he said. Nothing interesting. Taxonomy will create that. We'll talk about it later. Another meeting issue. There is an issue that we found with the current storage of the data, but it should be fixed now. Since 110, all master content items have their initiality to 0. This is the implementation detail. There are some comments. I haven't read everything, but some talks about having a custom translation set ID different than the master content item ID. I have to check that. So for taxonomy, we'll probably schedule a meeting this week, like we did last week. So please follow this design issue to get updates on that. Okay. And we'll try to resolve what we said for menus because it was perfect. The nodes were not perfect apparently. Questions? Topics? If you want to work on anything, again, feel free to ask me and I will give you something to do. Modules in Orchard 2, modules in Orchard 1. I know Hermes and Matteo are already working on implementing some of these discussions into Orchard 1.
There are an issue with checkboxes Nick main add med 1 at the beginning of Orchard. But it's not maintained anymore.
What, Orchard 2, Orchard 1?
Orchard 2, an issue with checkboxes inside to check.
A link?
I don't remember. No.
Well, we also have a roadmap. So if anything on the roadmap interests you, you can just open an issue, a design issue, and we can talk about how to implement that.
Yes. And maybe a project, what we've done on Orchard 1.
Yes. Yeah. We'll see. Once someone is interested, we can create a project for that. No questions? It's time. Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday or anytime for the meeting.